Hello.
Yeah, that's your name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving. And I'm like, ooh, there's some deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
Yeah.
You know.
He's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
Is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's right. I know.
How did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what Pertnear means.
If you know what Pertnear means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pertnear Outdoors. God, these intros are just getting to the point where I don't even know what to say, and I just feel like a clown. So I guess I'm just going to say what's up. Welcome to this week's episode, brought to you by Pertnear Outdoors. This is Billy Bob, and I am here with episode 39, which is going to be a chat about heading out to hunt whitetails in Iowa and ultimately also Missouri. So this week we've got John Peterson and Mike Falls on, and those two guys this past fall went out to Iowa to chase whitetails, and John actually, I won't spoil the beans too much, but John actually got to hunt in Missouri as well on that trip because of some of his good fortunes. So that is a fun convo we've got coming up for you. But first, let's chat about a couple different things. So I want to say, first and foremost, thank you to everybody out there who is participating in our 2020 Turkey Challenge. That was a huge success in just a couple weeks. We were just wanting to do a simple fundraiser. We set a lofty goal of $1,000 to donate to NWTF. Our plans were to leave the donation link on Facebook open for the entire month of May, but you guys all kick ass, and before we even got to May 1st, so at midnight the night before May 1st, so the last day of April, we were over $1,000. I believe the total we ended up raising was $1,110. So hats off to you and everybody out there who's participating and that donated. Some were very generous, others just jumping in. A couple people that weren't even planning to hunt threw some money at the fundraiser. So thank you so much. I was kind of thinking about this intro, and about 4 weeks ago, we were talking about cash for conservation, and a little bit of that kind of went by my wayside. We weren't talking a whole lot about it on the podcast or on our social channels, but here we are. And we put together a little fun contest to get everybody engaged, and all of you out there helped us kick ass and raise over $1,000 for NWTF, and that money is 100% going to them. So great job, everybody. Thank you so much. And Jimmy will be continuing to do the Breeding and Radio series, the Turkey edition, throughout the month of May, and we'll be trying to get on the folks each week that shot birds. So obviously, being the first opening weekend here in New York, there was 5 or 6 birds shot within the contest. So we'll try to get most of those individuals on to tell their story. And we're going to continue to march along in May and try to get some birds on the ground. So I will leave the turkey talk to that Breeding and Radio and for Jimbo to do. But this episode is definitely going to be a fun one, as we it's a long chat, but it's with both these guys are good friends of ours, both John and Mike. Mike being John's brother-in-law, and kind of got to know him through John. And Danny, myself, and those two guys had a really fun chat, and a little bit of comedy towards the end, the last, it seems like anytime we do a long podcast, the last half hour, 45 minutes gets a little bit entertaining. So maybe we should start drinking 2 hours before the podcast, because it might make the entire show a little bit more slapstick. But with that, I just want to give a heads up that the audio quality in the first 10, 15 minutes is not the greatest. So sorry about that. Had a little issue on my end with the recording device and some settings. I thought it was louder than it was, and it wasn't. So please understand that it will get better. So don't bail on us too early there. So I guess last two things, and then we're going to get started, is Danny Boy is doing a great job with the website. It's functional, it's up, and we're continuing to work on that each and every day, as Danny that's kind of his little pet. So go check it out, pertnearoutdoors.com. If you use the link in our bio, that link tree, it'll take you to our link tree, which will have our website at the top. And then you can also, you can use any of the other links for Camel Fire, Cabela's, Sitka, things of that nature. Those links are all in there, and any of the shopping you do through those links will help support the podcast. And definitely give us any feedback on the website. We're trying to, make it something that is of value to people. We're not trying to waste our time or anybody else's, and we want to try to get some good stuff on there. And then once we have some stuff for sale, is like we got the hats coming. Once we have that up there, that's where you will be able to purchase those things. So that's that. And lastly, and then on to the show, help us grow this thing. We're not putting a ton of money into marketing or advertising and trying to grow it that way. I'd much rather have it grow organically, as I've talked about. So please, if you like this podcast, give us a rating or a review on whatever platform you're using. And also, tell a friend, tell somebody that is into the outdoors or might be interested in the outdoors, or just would like something to listen to. If you think we're entertaining, we definitely want to continue this show, and we're putting a lot of effort into it. So if you like it, if you don't like it, I've asked before, continue going to ask for feedback, and want to know what you guys want to hear. So we're going to have a lot of this turkey stuff through the next few weeks, and then we're also going to be sprinkling in whitetail and some spring scouting, things like that, stuff that's going on right now on the whitetail side of it. And we'll start getting into a lot more whitetail talk, and probably some bass fishing and things like that. I got some different guests I want to get on to talk some other topics like that. But we're going to start getting hot and heavy into New York whitetail stuff here over the next few months. So give us your ideas. If you want us to discuss anything in particular, we are an open book, and we are not doing this solely for ourselves. We want to make sure that we're putting stuff out that is of interest to other people. So thanks again for listening. Appreciate it. Hope you're staying healthy, and have a good week. And remember, keep feeding them.
It's super complicated. You guys wouldn't understand.
Yeah, you wouldn't get it. You're just simpletons, No,
I don't really understand the need for one of these microphones yet, Billy, because we're not having any issues over here.
Well, no, I'm good now.
You seem to be having a lot of problems.
I added a docking station to my system. That's the problem. So I nixed the docking station, went straight to the computer, and now we're good. So everybody can hear each other well from the sounds of it. Is that right?
I can hear it. Yeah, you look a little pixelated to me, but
All right.
That's just natural.
Yeah, I'm just balding.
it's a bald pixelation.
I'm switching.
Actually, I think the pixelation helps fill it in, Bill.
Yeah, it looks not bad. It's a new just for men slow internet connection. It'll help you look better.
It's a digital correction.
Actually, I'm doing the whole community a favor and letting Danny grow hair instead of me, because I'm ugly as shit anyway, but he looks really good with an afro, so we figured we're letting him just run with it.
Not that, it's the mustache. Look at that gorgeous thing.
I'm trying
You
to
start twisting the ends on that thing, Dan.
I do it every day. I sit here. This is where I work every day for like 10 hours. So that's what I do. I sit here and I do this all day long.
You realize that's why
my skin is actually like, my skin's irritated on those corners because I play with it so much.
that's why you're not growing hair there either, because you're playing with it too much. All right, so I'm gonna
I got word I got another month at home, so I'll have a pretty good afro going after 4 more weeks of this.
Jesus.
The opposite.
I think this should be a deer season tradition for you too, Dan.
You have to get a new
We'll
hat.
See how it goes.
All
It
right.
could be like the Rudd afro.
The
Instead of
Ruffro.
like the hockey beard. Go with
Oh, it's a Ruffro.
This is my turkey hair.
All right, you boys ready to officially get this conversation started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we're pretty much just gonna wing this. We don't really have an agenda. I just wanted to. We've been wanting to get together, and now the Corona has gotten between us. So we figure, what the hell, might as well jump on the video chat and do it like this. But today, on this week's podcast, I've been wanting to get together with John again. So John Peterson was on back during, I think it might have been our first episode of Breeding 'em Radio. John shot a dandy 10-point here in Buffalo back at the beginning of archery season, and John was kind of teasing that he was getting ready to head out to Iowa, and now he didn't have any stress on him. So Johnny's one of the guys that hunts in our crew, and he's from out this way. You grew up in Colesville, correct? Area?
Well, Strickersville, Berrysburg, but yeah, we'll say I grew up in Colesville. That's
Okay.
where I spent the majority of my time.
In the township of Sheldon, Bennington, whatever. And so then the other gentleman joining us today is Mr. Mike Falls. And Mike is John's brother-in-law, and that's how we've gotten to know each other. So what's up, Mike? How you doing?
Good. How's it going? I'm
Good.
actually from Philadelphia. I'm not a foreign.
He's an import.
Yeah.
I'm an import from Pennsylvania, but I've been here for about 10 years, so I've grown to become a Western New York lover and hunter and all that good stuff. So
We love you
Western
too,
New
Mike.
York lover, huh?
Yeah. Can you
That's the
can you
first
go
time
into that a little further? What do you mean by lover?
well, all right. So when I first moved here, all my friends thought I was out of my mind, committing career suicide and all that stuff, moving to Western New York from Philly. Since I moved here, the area has grown on me tremendously. All I do is hang out with my kids, work, and fish and hunt. So
And work.
and work. I don't think there's a better place to be for all that. John had brought me into some of the areas you guys just talked about. I've hunted some of the farms out that way, and the deer quality compared to Philadelphia is much, much better. And I think it's improved my my hunting in total. And then if you add in the Great Lakes, John and I spent a tremendous amount of time on Lake Erie for walleye and everything else. That's a great resource as well. Very recently, my 40th birthday party was on. My wife was able to rent 2 charter boats, and all my buddies came up here. So, the biggest thing is the resources out here. I have a great job. There's great people, so I've grown to love it out here.
We love you too. That was a nice rundown on what that all meant by loving Buffalo. So I thought we were gonna go a different angle, like some kind of mobile app or something. There's a lot of time on our hands right now, but I'm glad you explained it the way you did.
If you want to know about the Grinder app, you got to ask John.
Oh shit, that's where I was going.
I already gave them all my intel. They're all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys are the pros now.
Yeah, John hosts a Grinder party every week. Okay.
Down in that man cave. And then so lastly joining us this week is the one and only Danny Boy. And
Danny.
Danny's growing a nice fro.
It's a nice fro you got, Danny.
The first few weeks were tough, and I almost cut it, and now it's growing in nice, and I'm pretty happy about it right now. Actually, I never thought I would have grown my hair out again. But
We appreciate it, Dan.
I'll give it a 9.5.
Hey Danny, you're doing that awkward low talking thing again.
look at that.
Could you
That's strong.
talk with your big boy
I
voice?
wouldn't need to get off my headphones. I'll get off my headphones. Might be my headphones.
No, you were doing your very serious talk. Yeah, I've been stuck in my office for the last month and a half. All right. So
Give me
while
another quarter of this beer, and I'll jack it up a little bit.
perfect. All right. Well, we'll get going with their story about heading out to the Midwest. So that's the primary thing I wanted to get into today was your guys' trip and have you kind of tell the story about how it all went down, but also kind of get into a little bit about how you guys went about planning that trip and what it takes to go out and hunt whitetails in the Midwest. And Danny and I have got experience going to we've been to Colorado twice for elk and mule deer, and then we've been to PA for the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been. But going to the Midwest to hunt whitetails is something that I know interests both of us and a lot of people out there, but it's something that a lot of times is not getting talked about too much from coming from the East Coast to go over towards the Midwest to hunt deer. So I guess kind of started off there with you, John. Kind of how did it all start with you guys getting ready to start putting this hunt together?
Well, it started in 2015 is when we put our first points in. And honestly, Mike is the one that initiated the conversation. It wasn't even really a thought like pursuing whitetail out of Western New York. I mean, we have good whitetail out here. And honestly, I thought we had, a very, very good herd of whitetail out here. Not only that, but quality as well until got to the Midwest. And then we found out what high quality whitetail is like. But yeah, Mike started the conversation in 2015. Him and a group of his friends from Pennsylvania were actually they were putting in the points at that time too, weren't they, Mike, Jack, and those guys?
No, actually, Danny Fisher went out to Iowa and had his first experience out there, and just came back. He was blown away. He couldn't stop talking about it. We go to a fishing camp. We bring our kids down there every year. That's where we kind of meet up. And when he came back from his first trip, he was just gushing over going out. He pretty much forced us all to put in for points. You guys are nuts if you don't. So my Philly crew, they all put in for points, but a couple of those guys along the way, they did not keep up with their points. So John and I ended up with 5 preference points. My brother ended up with 4. And then
4 and 3. We had 4, and Casey had 3. It would have been our 5th point when we drew.
Right. So all those guys were behind. They decided to go this year. So we'll see if that actually happens. But that's when we started putting in for points. I don't think we're going to stop at this point after our experience. So
it sounds like Jesus. Whoa, easy. I had turned my mic down so I wasn't getting any background noise. But it sounds like the consensus is it takes about 4 years as an out-of-state non-resident to draw for Iowa, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you need 4 points to draw pretty much. Unless you have, I mean, Casey was the exception. He missed what he missed last year, the year before. Right. And I think he just got able to go in with our group because we had the 4 and, he came along with 3. But from the people that I talked to out there, nobody's getting in with under 4 if they're going independently.
Yeah.
Right. And we put in for the draw strategically. John and I put in as a group, because we were definitely going. And my brother couldn't draw. He was going to go with the other set of people that are going to. So it was kind of a flip of a coin if my brother was going to make the draw, and luckily he did.
So it was the 3 of you guys that ended up having tags to go out there. So I guess you draw your tags. I think, what is it? It's about now, right? Sometime April, May.
Yeah, I think it's 1st of May. I know it's early May.
Okay. So, it's May. You put in when do they do the draw for Iowa?
It was the second week of June, I think, Mike. It was pretty quick.
Yeah, we drew in June. That's correct.
Yeah, I think it was the second week of June.
Okay.
Yep.
So at that point, you draw, and then I guess kind of I'll let you kind of just go from there. Like, what does it look like? So you draw your tag. It's not. You could go out there and tent camp or do something like that, but you guys went a little bit different route, correct?
Yeah, so we it's kind of funny because I don't think we did a whole lot of planning before. I guess the resources that we would have used for scouting would have been like Onyx, watched a lot of the hunting public, watched a ton of the hunting public, pretty much every episode, definitely every episode. Got a lot of intel from that. And then we didn't get real serious about it until we put in. We drew, and then it was on. We knew we're going. We're committed, and it was a commitment. I mean, me and Mike did hours and hours of homework. Well, we call it homework. We might have had a
Big
little
boy
fun.
homework.
Yeah, big boy homework. Well, we had to. I mean, we had to take advantage of the opportunity to remove ourselves from our elements of distraction, which are our kids. So maybe we went to a bar every now and then with our laptops, and we could have planned our Airbnb from there, for that matter, and scouted out some of the state lands. But yeah, once we were committed, we were all in. It was me and Mike just bouncing ideas off each other, just constantly, every day, daily. Even to the point where I would tell Mike I was shooting today, and then he go shoot. It was just we kind of fed off each other in that matter.
Yeah, I think one interesting point was, John, I was checking the dates on when we did everything, and we actually booked the Airbnb before we drew points. And I think that ended up being a very huge advantage, given some of the interactions that we had in Iowa. We actually met guys from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, coming out of the woods, and they knew exactly where we stayed. They called it out by name, and they were pissed that we got the Airbnb. So getting a jump on that before we drew points was pretty important. We got a tremendous Airbnb. What John did was, we landed on
Yep.
Yeah. So
right on the line.
Zone 4, there's a highway that runs north-south. Zone 4's on the west, and Zone 5's on the east.
Like Central. We were actually going to do Zone 5 at first.
Right. And then, through John and on X, and myself doing the scouting, we kind of landed on 3 main game lands that we were interested in. And John drew a triangle, and we said we want to stay in the middle of this. And that's kind of how we landed on the Airbnb, which was pretty cool. The house couldn't have been better. I mean, it was a 2-bedroom with a living room, enough space for all of our gear. We could park the cars behind the place. It was literally 5 minutes from where we hunted. So
5 minutes from where we hunted. Super close.
We were downtown. We could walk to restaurants if we needed to. I think when John was, and we'll probably get into this, when John was doing his second hunt, he ended up going to the library and doing some things to research for going to Missouri. So the planning was super important. I mean, when we started to figure out how much gear we were going to have, John and I quickly realized that my pickup with the tonneau cover wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to fly. So John started to look on Craigslist. He was able to find an exact match to my truck. I drive a white Tundra. John found a candy apple red Lear cap. Okay, my truck ended up looking like a candy cane, right? So
he has pictures of it red on the truck.
Yeah. So I brought it home. My wife told me that I wasn't allowed to park in the driveway. So for that, John quickly used his resources to find me a painter that could take care of that for me, and we got it matched, and it's still in my truck today. It's awesome. It's got toolboxes. John and I wired it up with LED lights and all kinds of stuff. It actually paid off dividends, and it's still I use it all the time. So it was a great add to the trip. We were able to stack all the gear in there, brought all that out there, and then my brother ended up flying into Des Moines, and that's where we met up with him.
Yeah, without that cap, there's no way we would have got all that gear in there. Even with the crew cab, there's just no way. I mean, those tree stands take up so much square footage. That was a saving grace. It was very last minute. I think we got the cap. I think it was the Wednesday before Halloween, and we left the day after Halloween.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah, that's when we got on the truck. It literally was that last minute. Chris Bennett's the one that painted it for us. I mean, Mike had that. Chris painted it in like 2 or 3 days too, so kudos to him to get it done in a hurry. Because I think it was the day after we bought that Mike, we got it over to Chris to get it painted. It was that quick. We had to turn around fast.
It was super fast.
And you guys were talking about how you spent so much time doing the study and doing the homework, getting together outside of, it seemed like you guys are pushing each other all the time. Are you shooting your bow tonight? I'm shooting my bow tonight. And like I mean, that is the best part about hunting season, period. And then that's the best part about putting a trip together, especially going out of state, because there's so many things that go along with it, but it becomes just literally it could be a year or 2 year constant interaction with you and your buddies just talking about it and scheming over things. Like, that's my favorite part about going on any of these trips, even in the trips to PA. It's not far away, but it's just like, it's getting you out of town and you're with the boys and you're focused on achieving a goal, and it's just, there's nothing better. So yeah, it's cool hearing you guys talk about how you were feeding off each other, getting ready for that trip.
Well, the great thing about planning is you get giddy, man. It's almost like you're in the hunt. The planning the planning was the most important factor to our success while we were in the Midwest, while we were in Iowa and Missouri for that matter. But I mean, having the conversations almost made you feel like it was deer season. And the conversation started in May, so it was just, and that, every day that got closer, it got that much more important. And then you just start putting it all together. Then, man, we had that truck packed up and we were heading out at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like, here we go, we're on our way. All that plan is right in the truck right now. Let's see what's going to happen when we make it out to the Midwest.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. We ended up splitting the trip up too. We had to meet my brother in a logical spot, which was Des Moines, and then on the way back, we realized that we weren't going to want to drive any more than 10 or so hours. Hotel set up in, I think it was Maumee, Ohio, John, right?
That's on the way back. The way there, we made it to Des Moines.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So on the way back, we cut up. So I think that was key in the planning as well, that we were very thankful that we did. The Des Moines thing was kind of cool because, we were able to blow off some steam before the trip. We were going to grind for a number of days. So that first night after that 14-hour
By the
drive,
way, Bill, he didn't say grind for a couple of days. He said grind for.
I knew exactly what he was talking about.
I just want to make sure he didn't.
I'm watching you, Mr. Falls.
I'm not the guy that hosts the grinder parties. It's John. But yeah, so we were able to go out in Des Moines and blow off some steam before the trip, and then likewise on the way back, we were kind of shot after the trip. So we got to Ohio, we were able to sleep and get recharged for the rest of the drive. So like John was saying, the planning was key. I think the quote, John, you said was we didn't screw anything up. Everything was perfect. So the planning was definitely the piece that helped us get that perfection.
Yeah, did it thunderstorm on you when you drove into Des Moines? It's a yes or no answer. Did it or did it not?
It did not.
Okay. Reason why I ask is that Danny and I have literally we've driven through Des Moines twice on the way back from Colorado, and it has been an absolute shit show. And it literally, the storm just follows you for at least 6 to 8 hours while you're driving in the dark. So that's all. I'm glad it didn't chase you, and that you didn't have to deal with it.
Well, no, I mean, it didn't thunderstorm, but I guess we could relate to the shit show considering that our hotel was right in the middle of a Bernie Sanders rally when we got there unknowingly. So
really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you go?
We were like the eye of the storm for the Bernie rally, which we had no idea what was taking place when we got there.
In the Iowa Macacaus? Is that where you were at?
Yeah. Yep.
I'll never forget seeing your Facebook status update to at Bernie Sanders rally, and I was just like,
"Oh, that's right.
I know John pretty good, and that does not sound like his kind of trip." That makes sense now.
It was just the icing on the cake, Danny. It was that pleasant surprise.
It was interesting. There was the hotel was full of people for the rally, everything outside. There was people marching, big crowds. It was just something that we didn't expect.
It was interesting.
Des Moines, the oddness of us timing our trip up with that was very interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. All right, so enough beating around the bush. Let's go into the hunt, Johnny.
Yeah, so let's see. Drove out there. We got to Des Moines Friday. Saturday, we headed down to our place, our Airbnb, And we got kind of settled in, got our equipment out, and then we kind of did a boots boots to the ground, a little scouting, a little hunting on the ground, and it didn't take long for us to realize, what the Midwest, especially Iowa, consisted of as far as quality of deer. I mean, I was kicking up deer everywhere. We were only there for maybe, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours at most, and it was a very short walk. And I mean, I'll just, I guess, speak to my little journey in there. But immediately you see rubs, scrapes. I mean, there's so much sign that you can't follow it. It's just everywhere. You cannot really hunt sign. I mean, you can't. It's just too much of it. And I was kicking up a buck said, see a tail here, see a head there. And then I remember hearing a little commotion, maybe about 15, 20 minutes before the sun set to the point where you can't shoot. And I thought I heard something, and then it was like only 30 yards behind me. There's like this 2-year-old, like 6 or 8 pointer, just looking at me, just kind of floated away, didn't really run away. His tail wasn't up, just kind of kept looking back. And so that deer went off, and I just made a couple more steps, and out jumps this monster, like 100 upper 130s, 140-inch run away. I go, oh my God, I've been here for an hour and a half, and I've already seen at that point 4 bucks and a couple other does, and it was just incredible, like right off the bat. And then Mike also saw a quality deer that night as well.
Yeah, I think the term out there that we kept saying was we're pretty much seeing a shooter a day, every one of us, So
a Midwest shooter.
Yeah, Midwest
like
shooter.
It's not the same scale shooter as what we consider a shooter out here for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think, John, one thing that you left out was as we drove down south, we ended up out from the vehicles around all the game lands to notice access points. I think one of the key things there was we found an error. I mean, we thought that from Onyx we could get some access to one of these game lands, and one of the bridges was out, so that kind of changed changed our plan around a little bit. So we had to kind of adapt on the fly. But yeah, speaking of being in the woods, same experience that John just mentioned. I mean, it seemed like every night the deer would come raining out of the hills, from behind you. So that last light, that power hour, you knew something was going to happen, and it always did. It's just, unfortunately, John, who has all the luck, was able to capitalize early. And he was able to capitalize again. But for us, I just couldn't get him in range until the last day. So I don't know if you want to go into your hunt, John.
Yeah, so after the first day, it was, I mean, obviously before this, me and Mike had put our pins out on X and had talked about the areas that we wanted to walk into and access points. And, from watching the hunting public, you don't know what you're getting into until you actually drive down these roads and see what the access points are like in the trails. And not only with that, are there going to be other vehicles there? I can remember that there was that soybean field. There was no vehicles parked there. And we walk in, there's a guy in a tree stand, and it wasn't far off this parking spot, but there was no vehicles there. He had to walk a ways to get in there. But, that was one of our first impressions. But we did drive all the way around that one state game. We drove around all those state game lands, but that one in particular, it was the closest to our Airbnb, so we hunted it. But yeah,
I want to just stop you real quick. So, because you mentioned driving around, so you guys had did you have a full week, a full 7 days to hunt, or?
Yeah.
So did you?
How many days was it? So, I mean, there was 2 half days. I think it was 8 days altogether. I mean, there was 2 half days and then 7. So,
what I wanted to dig into there. So you've looked at the stuff online. You've never seen it, put boots on the ground. You don't really know what the access points look like. So did you, like the first day you were there, first couple days, did you take advantage and try to cover as much ground just driving the roads just to see what you were up against and what you had to work with?
Yeah, that was our first approach. Is like, all right, let's see where these points are. Let's get a feel for this territory. At least, looking at it on a map and seeing how the boundaries are laid out are one thing, but actually seeing the roads that they're on are another. And then finding parking areas and just little areas that aren't identified on the map as well. But yeah, we absolutely skirted that. We skirted all the properties before we stepped foot on them.
It was interesting too, because we did see a lot of stuff that was very different than what was on it. We had to adapt on the fly to what we were seeing. I mean, a couple of the spots that John had pinned as kind of some of his top places to hunt, there was 4 or 5 vehicles there, or one of the game lands was just there was a ton of guys in there, so we kind of stayed away from that, and we ended up flexing to the game land that was really close to our Airbnb, as John said, which ended up paying out dividends. We stayed away from people. It was, I mean, the guys that hunted that week, there was only a couple. We recognized all the vehicles. We interacted with all of them, made some connect, got some intel. So that was valuable. I mean, John was texting back and forth with some of these guys, seeing if they were successful or not. And so that paid off as well, making those connections, those networking relationships during the hunt with other people that were out of state. I mean, some of the guys we ran into were from Pennsylvania, so it was easy to talk to them. They knew what we were getting into, why we were out here, and we shared some notes. So that was pretty valuable for us as well.
Yeah, I think I wanted to just hit on that quick, John, because I figured that was what you were getting to and the point you're trying to make, and it's just so important because you go out of state. Like, I mean, I can only speak for Pennsylvania and for Colorado, but I mean, nothing looks the way you expect it to. And even hunting state land around here, if you're going to hunt public land that you've never been on before, even though they might show here's the main parking area, there might be other access points or better access points that other people are overlooking because they're not marked on the map. And it might be old logging roads that are just overgrown, and you could park your truck at the end of that logging road and take that in or whatever. Like, there's just a lot of different things you could find if you get yourself so honed in just based off what you see online. You could waste a couple days pretty quick on a hunt just because you were hooked on something that you saw from 1,000 miles away.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you drove around, checked everything out, and now you're, I suppose, based on the timeline, you're getting close to when Johnny makes his appearance.
So the next day, I went right back into where I saw those deer, but I wanted to go in deeper. I wanted to go in deeper initially, but I wasn't going to press the envelope, especially considering it was my first day in, and it was getting dark quick. So the next day, and I think we actually got up a little bit later. We didn't want to go in when it was dark. We wanted to go in when there was daylight. So we waited till we had good daylight, and it's like, all right, let's put our hanging hunts on, and we're gonna pick the areas that we want to kind of feel out, and we're gonna put a whole day in. If we come back for lunch, if we don't, whatever. We had cell service. We took our rhinos so we could talk to each other too. We were actually texting through the rhinos a little bit, and I came upon a spot up on a creek. I actually walked for a couple hours until I found a really good spot that I wanted to hunt. And it just so happened that I'm like, that's the tree right there. I walk up to this tree. I got my hanging hunt system, and it's got foot pegs in it. The tree's got foot pegs in it already. So I dropped my sticks, and I'm like, wow, this couldn't work out any better. It was a beautiful little area. And so I hang my hang and hunt, and my sticks are on the ground, and I'm ready to go. It's probably ready to go like, I don't know, 9:00 in the morning. I would say I was hung up, ready to go. And I'll just talk about my whole first day hunt, and I'll let Mike go. But anyways, so I'm sitting up there, probably an hour in, and I see something run along the creek bottom, probably 80 yards away, and I can see this big rack just running through the cornfield, runs through the creek and through the cornfield. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Wait about another hour and a half. I heard something walking, but it picked me up before I picked it up. Here we go. There's probably another 130-inch buck with a doe running by me at maybe 20 yards.
Jeez.
So I'm like, man, this place is incredible. So what Mike likes to call the witching hour, which is about the last 45 minutes of daylight you got. Like he said, the bucks would rain off the hills. They would just come off the hills. That's exactly, they would be at the high elevation and come to the low elevation to feed at night. It's what they did every night. Huh. But so I had an encounter with a buck that night. I had a doe come down through and a small buck come down through, and I had, I could kind of tell it was a buck just the way it was moving, coming through the woods. And he stopped at about 60 yards, I would say. And I could see he had good beam on him. And I put the NX up, and I'm like, oh my God, he had to be close to 160-inch 10-pointer, which is real nice, typical. And I was actually able to draw on him that night, but I just couldn't force myself to do it. It was probably a 40-yard shot, and it was getting dark. I had a small opportunity, but there was just too much risk involved to try to take that shot. So, and it was the first day. It's like, well, if I saw this the first day, when am I going to see the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day? So, kind of let that go out. But yeah, that kind of set the tone for the impression of our Iowa hunt. It was just in these guys. I mean, Mike can probably speak to the same thing from what he saw just with his first day's experience there.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, we kept saying that they rained from the hills, and it was true. We started the pattern. The first day, I had a doe come out and a buck chase it in. It was probably 130s, 140s. Couldn't get that in range, but it left an impression. John knows how big deer leave an impression on me. They kind of haunt
half the
me.
reason we went to Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haunt me for years. I can't sleep.
Me
I
too.
See them,
Me too, Mike. You're not alone.
So I couldn't get a shot on that deer, but literally every day that pattern held true. Over the days past that first day, I tried to get a couple other spots in based on stuff we would talk about at night. Some of the times when I would get down midday and relocate, I would kick up more deer, monsters. I mean, it was very interesting. It's hard to, everybody knows it's hard to hunt from sun up to sundown, but I did it every day.
Literally every day.
It's impressive.
And you want, we were blessed with tremendous weather. One of the days it was like 55 degrees. I remember getting out of the stand for like 20 minutes and just sitting at the base of the tree. It was so nice to take a break. But every day, sun up to sundown, my brother and I did that. John didn't have to do that because he's super lucky all the time. He's gonna say, right? It's all his scout skill, but John's got a very high level of luck.
There's a horseshoe crammed so far up his ass.
Thanks. Well, I'm not gonna doubt there was this year, but don't try pulling out, boys. It's up there pretty deep.
Yeah. I don't want to touch
it. I'm not sharing it.
It's a 12-pack of horseshoes. But yeah, the other interesting thing, John, was the yotes. So.
Oh yeah, they're unbelievable out there.
At the end of
let me talk about the yotes for a minute. So, all right, we'll go into the second day hunt. So second day, I leave my hanging hunt in that tree that I found the pegs in. I leave it, but I bring my other tree stand. I had like a heavier stand, a field and stream stand that was a lot heavier than my hanging hunt. So I brought that. I hunted the hanging hunt, dropped it, put my field and stream up in it just because it was going to be easy access and I wanted to keep moving. So we could go back to that tree and hunt it. So I moved down a creek to another spot that I've been scouting, more or less, trying to scout and hunt. And I'm kicking up bucks. And Mike was talking about bucks he was kicking up that day, walking to. And I finally came to the spot where I ended up killing my Iowa buck. So it was the second day in the afternoon, and I get set up in this. That's in between two fields. One's like a CRP, and I don't know what the farmer had planted on the other side, but it was a nice little pinch right there with a little bit of a valley in the middle. Really brushy, just kind of a nasty area to walk through. But if you could get to this one little spot, and Mike can attest to this because he killed his buck out of the same exact tree, but there was literally one tree that you could hang in, and that was it in that whole spot. But I got it hung that day, and I'm watching. Just kind of watching this fawn and this doe, and the way she was acting, I got the impression that she was being chased. She was bedding down. She was looking a lot, and it looked like she was kind of guarding her doe. I heard some grunts, and I look off. I'm like, oh, there's a buck coming through, and I saw his small side at first. And I'm like, I don't know if that's big enough for Iowa. Then he started moving and chasing this doe. It's like, oh man, you know what happens when you're watching a buck long enough. I watched this thing for like probably an hour. I saw his right side, and I'm like, wow, he's actually pretty decent. And here he comes. She comes. They're on private. I'm right on the edge of private. She jumps the fence, and then he's right next to her. I draw. She's right underneath me. She sees me. He gets spooked. So he jumps the fence. It stays right on the line. He doesn't come right underneath me. And I don't know. I think I got a little rattled by them being aware, and I didn't make the greatest shot. I still hit him in the lungs, but it was a little far forward. I watched him die, but it wasn't the greatest place shot. But yeah, he only went 100 yards, and he ran towards the truck. So we it made our drag. Yeah, it made our drag that much easier.
Probably one of the coolest things about that, John, was getting a play-by-play from text messages Hey, I got deer in the field. What is your minimum class? Of this deer. I see this one. What do you think? What are you gonna do? It's my second day. What would you do, Mike? And then the next text was bucks down. So you know what he did. But the coolest thing, ran right towards the truck. It was what 100 yards off the road, which made it
Yeah, it wasn't far.
And
he ran right towards the truck. He couldn't have made a better beeline towards the truck. We just had to drag him through a field. That's it. Literally died right on the edge of the field.
It's unbelievable.
So every deer we shot
ran towards the truck.
Out of the woods. We dragged it out of the woods.
Yeah.
We came ready with these big, huge backpacks, and for me, I had the Kuyu pack, and I'd shove the lone wolf in the middle of that, and I'd pack the whole system in with the intentions that I could leave the stand in the woods and pack a deer out if I had to. We didn't need any of that stuff. We came prepared. John's deer in Missouri was even a better scenario, where we didn't have to drag. But I guess we'll get to that in a bit too.
So this is where I start to talk about the coyotes. So I'm on top of my deer, and it's getting pretty dark. It was still light out when I found them, but I was debating on what to do, if I'm going to try to drag the deer, take my equipment back. So ultimately, I ended up gutting the deer, and I'm sitting there. I'm going to take my equipment back, meet Mike and his brother, then come back and when they're ready to help me drag it out. And these coyotes are going nuts. Like I can hear them running around me.
Wow.
And it's a pack of coyotes. It's not one here or there. You hear one sound off, you hear 8 sound off. And literally I could hear them. They're just howling and getting closer and closer to me. And they're downwind. They could smell that gut pile. I literally had my headlamp on and an arrow knocked, ready for one to come out because I could hear them running around me. I mean, that's how bad the coyotes are. Every single night they just start yipping. And it's eerie, man. It'll send chills down your spine. It is an eerie feeling.
Yeah, coyotes are bad. I almost get more freaked out about the coyotes only because you hear them and they're there, where there could be something hell of a lot worse, like a bear, or you're out west. I mean, I don't know about you, Danny, but like it really never crossed my mind about mountain lions out there. But like you won't even know that there's a mountain lion there until your neck's broken and you're dead. Like they just take care of you quickly. But like coyotes, man, they get in your head. They're freaking howling and screaming and yipping. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, Danny.
That one buck that I think you shot on the farm a couple years back, when I walked up, I didn't have anything on me. I didn't have a knife. I didn't have anything. And I had a flashlight, and I panted over to my left, and I had about 6 set of eyes looking on me. And I was just like, I think Brian and Molly were with me, and I was like, Brian, you want to come over here?
No, I think I was. I don't know, but this is a total squirrel moment. But weren't you two both showed up late that night, right? You and John. And Mike.
We heard you guys find the deer.
Okay, because we were howling back, trying to scare the coyotes off, and we did shut them up.
We heard the was yipping and hollering up in the woods.
What a disaster of a night that was. I hit that buck in the morning, and I hit him back, and so we ended up going back after him, and then jumped him again. So we went and let him lay. But that morning, Dallas shot a slammer, and so we went back to the barn, and there was nothing to do other than decided to have a couple beers, and then next thing you know, it was like 8 hours later, and we drank every beer that was at the shop, and it was like Bob calls, and Bob's like, "Hey, you guys find that deer yet?" And we're like, "Why?" He's like, "It's pouring rain out." And we're like, "Oh no!" So we head out in the greatest adventure in whitetail hunting history across a flat farmland. And Dallas and I managed to flip the 4-wheeler in a drainage ditch, and we were soaking wet. And you buried your truck in the laneway because it was so sloppy that night. But end of the day, we found the deer, and we were able to claim our prize and bring it back to the shop and celebrate a little more. So that was fantastic. That was my first archery buck.
I tell you what, we almost got the play-by-play on that night because, like you said, my truck got stuck, so me and Mike couldn't make it in. So we're literally sitting outside of the truck. We could hear you guys yelling at the coyotes, like yipping. We're like, what is going on in there? And then we hear the hooting. We're like, You got to be kidding me. We could hear you guys screaming like clear as day.
That's
Like we could
hilarious.
understand every word that you guys were saying. That was interesting
Those
having the
memories.
play-by-play. That was fun.
It was good. That was real good. When were you guys seeing deer activity? So you're 2 days into your hunt now. You're talking about like late night deer activity right before dark. When was the activity during the day at all? Were you seeing deer all day? Were they bedding most of the day and you weren't seeing shit?
I can't speak to all day as much because I only hunted all day once. But there's no doubt that the nighttime was fit. I mean, the majority of the movement was the nighttime. But then again, the days that I was out there, I saw them move all day. But I mean, the night was consistent. I think you would probably agree, Mike.
Yeah, it all depended on what the weather was doing.
Yeah.
It was all throughout the day. You'd see deer. Honestly, I had to keep alert. The deer. You'd see them from afar. And then you wouldn't see them close. I tried to use some techniques to bring them in the time, but yeah, all times of the day, mostly at night. The pattern ended up being it's almost time to get down. The coyotes are going nuts. You're probably going to see a deer that you may or may not be able to shoot. And you'd climb down. I ended up starting to sit at the base of the tree and just listen to, the deer coming by or the yoke. It was interesting that at the end of the day and at the end of the trip, it ended up being the early morning were kind of the key times.
It's a great question, Danny. Thanks for bringing that to the program. It's important.
Just here for moral support.
Yeah. So you whacked your buck, you ran to the truck, you got in it for you, and then where'd you guys go from there?
Drinking.
Bernie rally.
John hit rock bottom in about 24 hours. Before the trip, all right, we did research Missouri. We knew what a tag cost. We knew kind of where the game lands were. John had it in his head. It took him about a day to really wrap his head around Missouri. I think, John, you took your deer to Missouri to get processed.
Yeah, I did. The day after I got my Iowa buck, I couldn't find any local place that would butcher it for me. I could have done it there, but we were literally like in the village of this town, and I didn't feel real comfortable, especially knowing nobody and having no idea what the impressions are. But after, the end of the trip and understanding the personalities and the characters of the citizens of that town, it would have been no problem at all. But so I found a place in Missouri that was about 45 minutes away. And I took my Iowa buck down there to get processed. Just figured, it's just easier. I don't have to worry about messing up someone else's house. And I had all the equipment there, but I figured, yeah, why not? I'll throw some cash at them and get it done. Well, on the way back, I'm like, well, I might as well see if there's any state lands around here. And I did explore a couple pieces of state property. The one that I ended up hunting, where I killed my buck in Missouri, there was a little camp set up, and there was guys everywhere in Missouri. They were all over the place, just because there's not a point system. It's a lot cheaper than Iowa. There was guys everywhere, and at this camp there's at least 10 sites set up with 4 or 5 guys at each site. So, and this was only one spot. I ended up talking to one guy for quite a while. Actually, he gave me a little bit of insight, but from there, I went over to a couple other ones, and through process of elimination, I came back to this one. I think it was 2 days later, and ended up hunting there. But then I took advantage of driving down there to get the deer processed, and it was only 5 miles out of the way, 6 miles out of the way to check it out. But just like going in Iowa, it's like, well, might as well drive around, see where the access points are, see where the parking spots are, see where the other hunters are. So that actually was a great opportunity to get some insight into that property before I even looked at it from above.
So one important piece here is that we kind of figured out that for every 2 guys that you have, you need a vehicle. I think that was John's formula there. Third
Yep.
guy, second truck. We actually rented a truck in Des Moines. What that gave us was flexibility. It literally enabled John the ability to go to without that second vehicle, that rental that we got from Des Moines, he would have never been able to do that. he would have been stuck in the house all day, which, you know, it put a little bit of I mean, it ended up working out because my brother and I, we hunted every day in the same game lands, which was cool. It enabled John to go. So, you know, it was a positive thing.
So how'd you shoot him, Johnny? You're in Missouri. What happened?
So I was in Missouri. Missouri's fun, and Missouri wasn't even a thought to me until after I killed my bike. And Mike's like, "Why don't you go to Missouri?" Okay, check out Missouri. So, like Mike said before, I scouted it. I got my license at the library. It was one of the very few times I ever went to a public library. Go figure, it's for deer hunting. But so I got my license on Wednesday, and I went there and I checked out this place called Denver, and I walked it that night and just found out it wasn't hunt worthy. So I went to the state property that I had drove through the day before, and my approach was it was going to be cold. Mike, if you remember, it was like 10 degrees or 12 degrees that morning. It was really cold. So I'm like 45-minute drive. It's freezing out there. I said, I'm going to get up at sunrise and I want to go in when the guys are coming off. So I figured they'd be coming out at about 9-10 o'clock, and I nailed it. And the first truck I pull up to has New York plates on it. So I'm like, I got to go talk to this guy. It's the first time I'm going to go hunt there. And, you know, he thought I was a Missouri resident because I had a Missouri rented truck. And I told him I'm from New York, and he was from like central New York, Syracuse area. So the thing is everybody in Missouri is from out of state. Nobody hunting that area is from in-state. There was some Ohio, a ton of Michigan, and the New York guys. So I asked the guy, I go, how'd you do this morning? He goes, spikes and crotch horns. I go, oh yeah. I go, which area are you coming in? He goes, yeah, I'm just down over the hill, and small talk with him a little for a little bit. And he's like, yeah, we're not seeing nothing. I tell him I'm from New York. And he goes, well, I got to be honest with you. My son hit a nice 8-pointer last night and didn't find it. I go, yeah, I know there's bucks in here. I would go, yeah, spikes and crotch horns, right? So I talked to that guy.
There's no fish.
And as I'm driving through, I see more and more people sitting in the trucks. They already did their morning hunt. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going to go in when everyone else is coming out. And I could see guys coming out, sitting in their trucks, they're warming up. So I finally pick a parking spot to try to find one of the areas that's furthest away from a parking spot as possible. And I want to do a lot of walking and scouting while I went in. So I got in deep and I run into another guy. I go, hey, what'd you see this morning? He goes, spikes and crotch horns. I go, what is this? Like some kind of code for Missouri? That's all people see out here is spikes and crotch horns. So I kind of walked by that guy and still walking and scouting, got my hanging hunt on, and found this creek bottom, sneaking through there a little bit, and I found a nice little pinch again. I'm like, this looks pretty decent. I'll set up here. So I get up in my spot. I think I was in my spot right around 11 o'clock. And I was up there. I think it was 11:40 that my buck came through, and he came through at like 12 yards. I couldn't get a shot because he came around to my right side, and I couldn't get a swing on him. But he was my first impression of Missouri, and from there on, I just saw deer all day. They were all, and again, just like in Iowa, I was on the public side, and there was a private fence. The private fence was only 40 yards from me, and I was watching deer in this little meadow again, almost like Iowa, very similar setup. And I was watching deer all day. It just kept me entertained, right? And so I can hear someone walk in. I guess he was to the south of me. I knew it was someone walking in and off the state land. I'm like, I got company, but whatever. He didn't come up to me. So I think it was later in the afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock ish, that, you know, I'm just kind of looking around, browsing. Oh, here comes a shooter buck walking right at me. Well, here we go. Jumps the fence. And he's heading right in. All of a sudden he veers off and he's going towards that other hunter. And I'm doing whatever I can do to try to get him to come in, do a little grunting and a little doe bleats, but nothing worked. And he got out of sight. And I hear the other guy doe bleat. And all of a sudden the deer starts walking back at me. And he's beelining. He's coming right through like my 20 yard. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He gets behind this big oak tree. I go to full draw. And he presents his head and his shoulder, and that's it. I can't see the back of his shoulder. I'm at full draw, and you could just see him going like this. I go, come on, just one more step, man, one more step. Would have been 20 yards. And so he does the head down. He starts, looking away and walking away. I go, oh boy, here we go. So I'm like 25, 30, and I'm looking ahead, and I found a lane. It was like 35, 40 yards. And I felt really comfortable, probably the most confident I've ever felt in a difficult shot like that in my life. But I found one really good window. It wasn't big, but it was there. And he was just on a nice steady stream and I was following. So I let him and I shot him while he was walking, and I could see it in slow motion. I could see his arm go back, and I said, with that motion, he's going to come back and forward by the time the arrow gets there. And I let it go. It ended up being about a 40-yard shot. Put it right in his lungs while he's walking, and I didn't see him die, but I heard him crash, and he went off into the private land. So he's off in the private land, and I'm sitting right on the fence. And with the other guy down there, I didn't want to go into the private, not having permission. It's the last thing I want to do is sneak into someone else's property. So I'm sitting there and I pull up my Onyx and I actually find the property owner. I look him up in the yellow pages. I call him and he said I can go in and get the deer. So I'm like, this is awesome. I can't believe how well this app just worked out for me. Like I have access to go in there, no problem at all. Well, it was really dark at that point. So I boot out. I called you, Bill, twice. I called Mike.
I'll never forget. Because you told me after you shot your Iowa buck, you're like, dude, if I go to Missouri and I shoot when I'm done hunting, I'm done. That's it. Ever. I'm like, okay, yeah, people say shit. And then I'm making dinner, standing at my island, and all of a sudden my phone's blowing up, and it's like prime time. And I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. I'm like, Johnny whacked another one. And I pick it up, and I'm like, so you done hunting? And you're like, yeah, Slick, I think I'm done hunting. I'm like, holy shit, you are the man. Because that was $3 in a matter of like 15 days. It wasn't even like a full 30 days, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I think I killed the one on Columbus Day. I
like
killed
the 15th or the 16th.
I think it was November 2nd, and then the 5th. So yeah, it was less than a month. I killed all $3 with a bow.
Yeah. So from my perspective, at this point, I'm on day, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 4. Humping that stand in different spots, hunting all day. I'm exhausted. I'm coming out of the woods. Talk to John. John's like, hey, you guys don't have to come and help me, but I could use some assistance, right? So I'm waiting at the truck. My brother comes out. He looks shot, dejected. It was like John mentioned, that day was super cold. And my brother gets in the truck and I look at him. He's like, hey, let's go back and eat. And I go, nah. I go, we're gonna go to Missouri. And he's like, fuck it. He goes, John killed another deer. Are you serious? And it took some convincing, but he didn't really have an option. We were heading to Missouri anyway. One of the interesting things was we used Google. John sent us a pin. Google to get to that pin. The pin was for the deer. And while we were driving down there, we ended up on a dirt road that got us really close to the deer. And then we realized that John was on the other side. So we backed out and drove to John. And when we met up with him, we told him, listen, man, there's a road with a gate that can get us really close to that deer that he couldn't see on the app. So what we ended up doing was, once we had that conversation, we kind of changed plans, went back on that dirt road, opened up that gate because John had permission, and drove up onto this property. We were able to get in within, what was it, John, 100 yards once we got into the woods?
Oh, yeah, at least. Yeah, at most, I should say. It was 100. Not only that, but we didn't track it. I walked right to the deer in the dark. Just walked right to it.
Why don't you shoot your deer in PA 100 yards from the truck, Johnny? Freaking shit.
No, I like taking 300-yard shots in PA.
Billy, I've been dragging John's deers for a decade now. It's driving me nuts.
It's bullshit.
It's yearly occurrence. I'm tired of it. End of the trip, I have a picture. It's an awesome picture of John dragging my deer out of the woods. So that doesn't happen often.
Oh yeah. So Johnny gets his. You get his buck all taken care of, and then you ended up. You did end up getting a buck in Iowa, right?
I did. So
let's not make this all about John. You're an Iowa buck killer too.
We like to blow John's head up so that he thinks he's amazing. You know what I mean. So anyway, the last day, we're about to drive home. we're doing what you do on the last day of a trip. You know, we're out. We ate. We went to a local establishment, which had tons of monster deer on the wall. John's making friends with everybody. So is my brother. I recognized that I had one morning left, and I could sit in the bar and give it up, but I decided not to. The hunting was that good. There were so many deer that every hour was so valuable. So I went home early. These guys came home, and a half an hour after they went to bed, I got up and I went to my stand. Last day, I'm in the woods. Like John mentioned, when we were scouting, we both pinned this little pinch point. John was successful there. He said he saw a bunch of deer, so that's where I decided to go. It was rather close to the road. I had left my stand there the night before, and when I got up there, saw some movement. 100, 200 yards away. Anything I could do to get deer to come in wasn't working. Time was fleeting. I had about an hour left before I had to get out. I was defeated. And then all of a sudden, I saw a buck about 100 yards away. I'm doing all the stuff John just mentioned. I'm bleeding. I'm grunting. I'm doing that. Nothing's happening. And I'm thinking another deer, another shooter that's within, I can see it, but I can't get it to move. So I went to like plan D. I'm going to snort wheeze at this thing. And I did that. It turned like 90 degrees, came right at me. Same beeline that John had, hopped over the fence, 20 yards, smoked it. I panicked because I didn't want this thing to run. It was facing in the wrong direction. I kind of wanted to be like John and have this thing run to my truck. I pulled back again, let one fly. The deer spun. I ended up spining it, so it dropped right there, which was good. I didn't have to drag it anywhere or chase it in the woods. So that was a nice, easy drag. John was nice enough to divert his plan, sleeping in and showering and whatever the hell he was doing, eating his Cocoa Puffs to come and help me drag a deer for once. Hasn't happened in a while. So that was a nice end cap to the trip. One interesting point was on the way out there, we might have been listening to your podcast.
Come on. Oh.
Yeah, I'm serious. So I think we were listening to it, and I don't know what it was.
We obviously had a lot of time.
Yeah. If you got to my podcast, you were absolutely at the bottom of the barrel, man.
No, I swear to God, we were listening to John's podcast where you were interviewing him, and we were talking about goals, and on the way out there,
Expectations.
John said, "What is the expectation here?" And when he asked me, I said, "If we walk away with one good buck, that's a good trip. 3 guys, 1 buck, that's pretty good." My brother was unsuccessful, but he actually was full drawn on the biggest deer that any of us would have ever seen. So
he saw more big bucks in that 7 days of hunting than all of us have seen combined. And it was mostly out of that tree stand that I left and put the other one up in after my first day. Right. But he the way he explained this one, he saw the one that I drew on the first day at like 15 yards and couldn't get a shot. He said it was massive. He explained it perfectly to a T for what I saw, but from the way he explained another one they saw was probably 180 inches plus.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So we did spend some time talking to the locals, some of the farmers, and this game lands we were at was known to have deer that are that class and that size. And at first we didn't believe, or we were skeptical that the deer were in there. Then all of us saw deer of that class. I mean, it was crazy, wild.
So I guess what are some of your guys' takeaways from your first experience going out to the Midwest? I mean, is there anything that you could share would be like things that are do's or don'ts, or things that you expected that weren't that, or I guess any takeaways you have?
One thing that we learned, especially that Mike got intel from in talking to some of the guys from Lancaster, PA that were there, that you can get private access really easy by just going around and knocking on doors. I mean, talking to the locals, they want the deer dead. Locals that are hunters out there that we talk to, like, "Hey guys, how's the hunting?" They're like, "Yeah, we're doing pretty good. We got about 5 coons last night." Like, "What are you talking about?" They're raccoon hunting. They're not even white-tailed deer hunting during the rut.
What?
So if that gives you any impression of the importance of like killing these world-class whitetails out there, it's very low for them. So
It's amazing.
one takeaway I have, I know people that spend a lot on going out there and leasing property. I don't think you really have to, because there's access everywhere. It's once you get in there, they're very maintained, well-maintained trails. A lot of guys had like deer carts. If you had a deer cart in there, you'd be golden. You'd have a short drag just about everywhere, and you could deer cart it out. And there's plenty of state land, and not only that, but you can knock on doors. So I think the way that we approached it and all our planning, we nailed it. I mean, me and Mike talked about it time and time again. We did put a lot of time in, and I'm not going to say that we really did anything wrong. I don't know if you'd agree, Mike, but I can't think of one thing that we really did wrong that we regret out of this trip.
No, I think all the planning, the trip, the logistics, the Airbnb, the scouting, the way we shared, the way we discussed things, our weekly meetings at the Yelling Goat, all that stuff was was perfect and ended up making the trip, successful. I can't think of anything that we did wrong. Your suggestion to knock on doors is a good one. The guys that I spoke with from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, they came out the year before they drew their points, and the point of their entire trip was that they went and they were getting land for the next year. They knew they were going to draw, so they pounded on doors. That was the whole focus. And they were able to get a bunch of farms. When I ran into these guys, I was coming out of the woods as they were, and I was walking up a dirt road, and just ran into them, and they were talking about how they were shifting the afternoon to hunt private farm. So that's one of the lands that they were able to get access to that year before. The year before, they were in the Airbnb that we were in. Those are the guys that were mad that we secured it for the hunt. So it was a good.
If we nailed anything, it was getting that exact house at that time. If we nailed anything, that was probably the focal point of that trip.
And this was southeast Iowa?
So it was almost south central, a little bit west.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at a map, you're going to see a highway that runs north south. I can't remember what it is, John, and you're going to see the Missouri line. If you go
it splits 4 and 5.
Right. If you take that, you go to Des Moines, go directly south. There's game lands to the west. We were in those game lands.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought. Never really gotten south of. Anytime I've been out west, I didn't. I guess I didn't. You got to look at it. I didn't see Missouri as being straight south of Iowa, so that makes sense. If you guys were down there to make that hop over to Missouri.
Another interesting point was we had the guy that initially got us into this, my buddy Fisher. He was out there at the same time. He was hunting the game lands a little bit more to the north, but it was kind of neat having somebody else relaying their success, what they were seeing, how they were doing movement, were they seeing hunters and things like that. So comparing notes was kind of neat. We did intend to meet up, it just never happened. But in the end, it was kind of cool to on the tail end of our trip, driving home, and even the next day, continuing to get an update from somebody that was hunting Iowa, and he ended up becoming very successful out there. He shot a really good deer too. So
nice.
Yeah, so that was neat.
What's on your mind, Danny? I can see you cooking over there.
Oh, you want me to, which number one on the list? Or
so yeah,
which,
if you want to, I gotta go drain the main and then maybe make another drink. If you want to fire at the boys, or if everybody needs a pee break, or
yeah.
Is everybody good?
Yeah, we're good.
I guess I'm just very hydrated. All right, run it, Danny. Feed it.
Yeah, we're good to go. So, like, one thing we talked about a little bit earlier is you scout on Onyx and you get out there, and I think you guys alluded to it is totally different than what it looks like on Onyx. So what were you looking for on Onyx out there? What were some of the things when you got out there you were looking for? And like, how did you hunt it? How did you scout it from Onyx? go into a little bit of the specifics on that, because that's like, those are the things I'm interested in.
Well, looking at Onyx, the one thing is getting away from people. So we tried to seek out areas that we thought may had been difficult to get to, not just distance wise, but also terrain. Like the first place I set up in Iowa, there was a bunch of hills there, and I actually found a really nice cutaway, a creek cutaway that took me right to that spot that I don't think many people knew about, but it made it really access. But you had to get it going to the Onyx. It took me to that point, but it took some time to figure out how to get there, especially how to get there easy. But I wanted to get away from people. I think that was our biggest thing. Scouting from above is finding distance and also finding terrain in between where people are going to park and where you want to hunt. You don't want, most people aren't going to go through that terrain, go in that far, especially with a bow, a tree stand, sticks, your backpack, your gear for the day. There's not a lot of people that are going to endure that.
Yeah. So Johnny, with that strategy, what we did was through one of our meetings, I ended up marking out every potential parking lot that was around all the game lands. And what we did was we drew radiuses from those parking lots to see what the furthest part away from those parking lots you could get. And those became some of our most places to look to hunt. John mentioned one of those streams. In the game lands we hunted, it was very challenging to cross, especially in the dark. We did try to focus on the other side of that stream, knowing that most people aren't going to cross it. So, that was one of the main strategies we used.
Yeah. It was the first time I experienced quicksand too. All those creek bottoms they're all sand. It's nothing but sand bottom. And I literally had one time where I hit it. Now I walked through some bogs in the springtime pursuing turkey, but I hit this spot, man, and I literally went right down to my crotch in sand. Like, I'm like, I need to find some solid land to get out of here. Well, this was down in Missouri, but literally every creek bottom is sand. So you got to be really careful walking through it. Really, really careful.
So the creek was tough to cross, but it wasn't. I'm thinking creeks around here, you're getting rocky bottoms, and you can't get footing or anything like that. And you're talking
nothing like that. No slate bottoms. No, like your typical trout stream. You have your rocky bottoms. There's nothing like that. It was all sand, just sand.
And it could have been at certain points 20-foot sheer wall.
Yeah.
Erosion have to try to navigate up. That's what made it really difficult to hunt, and kind of became some of the focus on our places to go check out. We found some good crossings with deer activity. We were able to use those to get to the other side and kind of check some things out. But we knew that other people aren't it's kind of hunting Letchworth. People aren't going down that bottom and doing what we. So it was the same concept.
But speaking to that point too, though, Mike, I think we need to let them know that in hunting Pennsylvania and Letchworth and packing deer out, it also was one of the reasons that we would go that deep, because we're not as worried. We know that we can get in there, we can cut up a deer, we can walk out. I mean, I think Mike said it without me even realizing it, and he's like, you having the confidence to pack a deer out by yourself is what drove you to do Missouri, or else you're not walking in there like that. Most people aren't going to do that, but it's absolutely right. Like the whole quartering process that we've been doing, and we got good at it as a group. We've been doing it for years now, but that just allows you to go that much further than all those other people that cannot do that. And that's why I got in so deep in Missouri, and that's why we pushed ourselves in Ohio and got to those deeper spots. I really think a lot of it goes back to that, like, hey, we can go anywhere we want. Literally, we can go.
It actually ended up being you get a bonus half an hour or so, I think, if you're willing to shoot a deer and pack it out. You're not like you said, John, you're not worried about wherever this thing falls. And we all have our kill kits with our Havalons and our bags and all that stuff, and the backpacks that can expand. I mean, I think we're all capable of packing deer out. So you're right, that did add some. We went way deeper than we would have otherwise.
Yeah.
Nobody's dragging a deer out from where we were hunting.
No way.
It's good to hear that from you guys. I think me and Billy pound that home. But we talk about it all the time. how much it means to be able to pack out a deer. And like I'm thinking about doing it this year when I'm 300 yards from the road, and I can have a four-wheeler bring the deer back to the truck if I want to, just because I think the meat turns out a lot better when you quarter them out. But I mean, to be able to quarter stuff out and pack it out that way is just huge.
It's a great question.
And what?
It's a great question.
What was that? What question did I ask, Billy?
I don't know. I'm just coming back from my hiatus, so I'm very proud of you. You're doing great.
Just checking.
Yeah.
So what were you? So you find spots far from the road. Now, what are you setting up on? Go into that. What you guys are actually hunting on when you're back in finding spots? What were you looking for?
So, John, I think one of the main spots we looked at was natural funnels. Once again, distance from vehicles, parking lots, things like that. The funnels, John mentioned it earlier. There's so much sign out there. It's ridiculous. Everywhere you look, there's scrapes, there's rubs, there's just everything. I mean, it looks like there's thousands of deer running around there. I mean, it's just, you can't hunt off of just sign. You gotta find a natural transition. I think where John landed and shot the first deer in Iowa. I mean, that was, like I said, we both pinned that as a place to go. It was a very obvious funnel. And I think that's where our main focus was, John. I mean, you have anything else that you think you'd add to that?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm out there, I was looking for pinches. I was looking for sign mailing. Once you get it, it's a matter of finding an area that you like from above, and then just feeling your way around when you're in there. When you actually get to see what the terrain looks like. But not only that, like I like hunting transition areas, so I like a mix of things. Like you take in the terrain, you could take in the creek bottom, you could take in, what kind of hardwoods it consists of, or pines or cedars and all that. And I like to just kind of find a pinch within those areas. I really like those transition areas a lot. So once I got in there, just took my time, looked around, and was hoping to find a decent trail, and just kind of set up and see what that day was going to bring.
Johnny, you want to talk about the dogs?
Oh yeah, the dogs. Fucking dogs. Yeah, every day we saw dogs. We saw dogs or coyotes chasing deer every day, and the deer still kept coming, raining off the hills. Every day we saw dogs chasing. I think the one actually came up to Casey, didn't he?
Yeah, they had collars on. They were.
Yeah. Yep. And then we're talking to the locals, and that's one of the first questions they ask us. You see those dogs in there? Like, yeah, we saw the dogs.
Danny,
running all over. I think.
Speaking of dogs, did you see that video that Ranella posted on Instagram the other day? Those two domestic dogs taking that deer down.
I didn't know.
It's freaking crazy. And so, like, you guys were talking about the volume of deer sign, and I was talking to Danny because yesterday I went for a walk on a piece of state land a little bit south of us, down towards like Eagle, Bliss, and I don't know if that's just into Allegheny County. I guess
like it's Farmersville area.
No, it was Centerville. I think is
Centerville. Okay.
Yeah. So I went down that way, and it's an area that I've never been to before. I wanted to check it out, and you got me thinking. Just because one of the things that jumped out at me walking that area, I walked a little over 5 miles yesterday, and I mean, there was just like no sign. Like you'd find deer trails where there should be deer trails, but like there was not anything of what I'm used to seeing headed over towards the Finger Lakes and the state land I've looked at over around camp. And I'm just kind of it just hit me in the face, like the deer density just may not be as strong there as it is. And like you guys were talking about how there's just sign everywhere, and you can't literally like worry about this scrape or this rub because every single, tree, as far as you could see, there's going to be trees that are rubbed or there's scrapes. And so like it's deer density, I guess, is what it comes back to. And like maybe that area I was in yesterday, I think that's an area that they're very stingent on giving out doe tags. I think that's 9J down there. So like, that makes you kind of think about the fact of like when you're trying to select an area to go hunt and then you're trying to pick it out, like you can pretty quickly tell whether there's a good deer density or not based on the physical, visible sign of rubs and scrapes in particular when you're trying to look at an area. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but
I've never seen anything like this in Pennsylvania or New York. It was that much more. John?
Is overwhelming. I mean, yeah, you're right, Bill. We don't see a lot of it. We just kind of look for it, especially this time of year. They might be in a different cycle than we would naturally see them in, during the rut or, early fall for that matter, late fall. But just speaking to Iowa, yeah, you couldn't hunt it. It was, and the thing is you would see like out here, you would tend to see like scrapes and rubs in common areas, and you would see there's just so many deer and so much sign. You would see it and like, why is there a rub right there? Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Why would there be a deer walking through here? Yeah.
Yeah. You would walk the main trails and they would just be littered with rubs and trails and scrapes. I mean, there were just rubs everywhere, massive rubs too.
It's interesting. Yeah. And I mean, that's been the one benefit of this coronavirus is that I've never hiked so much in my entire life. I've put, I don't even know how many miles. It's been awesome for that factor where I've just covered, I mean, I've literally gridded the majority of the Kirsch's property, like my in-laws. I've just gridded that. I've been to the Nature Conservancy where I've been hunting the last couple of years, and I'm just like picking areas, small pieces of area, and I'm just like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, just covering it as good as I can. And you can, like, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make is that like you can clearly tell when you cover an area, like whether there's a lot of deer there or not. And you could be wasting your time if you go. I'm not saying that area I went to the other day is a bad area to hunt. I found a bunch of tree stands in there, but there just isn't a lot of deer sign. So if you're in an area where you should see old rubs. You should see, like, especially this time of year, there should be scrapes you can see on the ground. Like if you're not seeing that, then there's probably not maybe a lot of deer there, or it's maybe, I don't know. Like if there's deer there, they're leaving sign, and if you're not seeing sign, then there's probably not deer there. I guess I don't care whether you're hunting New York, Pennsylvania, Iowa, doesn't matter. If there's no sign, there's probably no deer there.
That's a good point. Like, so the first place I actually put boots to the ground and took my bow into in Missouri, I just went for a night walk, and it was just a little 50-acre park, but there was nobody there. So I'm like, yeah, let's check this out. But just like you said, Bill, process of elimination, like, nope, ain't coming back here. I can see why there's nobody in here. It just doesn't have it. It's not going on. And I mean, Missouri was full. And the funny thing is the state property that I actually got my buck off of was only a couple miles away. I mean, this wasn't like it was any different terrain wise than the other place. There was just no deer there. So I eliminated that real quick and like, all right, I'm going to dedicate my efforts to this bigger track because there's just nothing here.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like Billy, we've had that piece on our minds for a while because we got a tip from a guy that I think we can trust that some really good deer were shot.
There was one of the biggest bucks in the Western New York. The Rut Madness Challenge was shot out of there this year.
So the one with the big brow tines, right?
Yeah, with a bow.
Yeah, with a bow.
Go ahead, Danny. I interrupted you, Danny.
I was just saying that. So it's like
there's deer there.
Are we? Yeah.
It's just if you're gonna, that's not gonna necessarily be a piece. I think we have. I mean, obviously we have a lot of public land we can hunt, but like we all have pieces around, whether it be a 10-acre piece or you got in-laws property or family property. So it's like you're not gonna go spend an absorbent amount of time in a place where there's no sign. Like, yes, there's probably deer there. You could probably have a buck come by you or see deer. But it's like if you've got 4 hours on a Saturday, you're not going to go to a place where there isn't dick for sign. You're going to go somewhere where there's deer, where there's opportunity that you're going to get to let a round fly. Like, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. And I think that's what you're getting at too, Danny.
Exactly. What do you think, Danny?
What kind of setups were you guys running? I know you talked about hanging hunts, different stands and stuff. So, the whole trip was new for you guys, running backpacks and tree steps and whatever you're running. So just go into what you're running, what you really like, maybe some things you would change in your setup? Something new maybe you were hunting with that like you never thought you would love, but you did love? Just going to that, your gear a little bit. Good.
Yeah, I can start there. So I'm running a lone wolf with the sticks, and
Lone wolf sticks.
yep,
Insane.
yeah, lone wolf sticks, and I was running. It wasn't new to us. We've been running. I've had that for I think 2 seasons now. I used it in a couple of my spots around here, so I'm very familiar with it. The difference out there was I integrated the stand into the backpack and kind of carried it in that way. That was kind of a difference for me. I didn't run that out this way. I mean, there's no need for me to have a massive backpack and when I'm hunting for my truck here, but that worked really well. My brother did the same thing, adapted very quickly. It was super comfortable using the Kuiu packs with the Lone Wolf setup. There was a bit of a learning curve to it, but in the dark, after doing it for a number of days, getting all those clips around it and cinching it down became pretty simple and second nature. So John did something totally different. He didn't have the Lone Wolf. John, where were you at? What was your gear?
I had the XOP.
Yep.
I had the XOP, and I actually bought one of their. It's almost like a frame pack that allows you to integrate clips into the stand that then clips into a frame pack, and it has one of the hip supports on it too, which made carrying very comfortable. I did some mods to mine too, so I had the Hawk Helium sticks with that, and I made a couple things like with my belt that I could hang them up as I'm climbing, so I didn't have to descend to go grab other things. But yeah, I mean, I think I told you, Bill, during that interview after I killed my New York buck that I was dedicating towards using this XOP and this hang and hunt system to get ready for Iowa. I think that's how that whole conversation about Iowa started.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was Mike for you? So John obviously got out a couple times to use his setup before he got out there to Iowa. Did you have a chance to run your Lone Wolf and to kind of get comfortable going up a tree before you hit the woods in Iowa?
Yeah, I actually had the Lone Wolf a full year before this trip, so I used it hunting New York. So I'm very comfortable with it. I was able to the sticks and hang it. There's a bit of a learning curve to it, but once you have it down, it's super simple. It pretty much opened up. I don't know. Everybody had the Summit climbers. Those are clunky. The Lone Wolf just feels so much better. It's easier to go up. You get super fast at it. You get a high level with it. And then that
Guinness.
But yeah, so and then integrating it into the backpack was kind of the change that took a little bit of a learning curve. I found myself at night, in the house, kind of just playing around with it, making sure that everything was working right, and I could set it up on the way in and the way out. So worked out really nice. The plan if I shot something deep was to leave the stand and then just backpack out and then come back and get it another time.
So each night you were taking the stand down and putting it back up in the morning.
Yeah, we would get out of the woods. Kind of our nightly routine was we'd either cook or go out somewhere, but we'd come back and we had an iPad. We'd kind of get together and put our heads together and try to figure out what the strategy was for the next day, and talk about the hunt that we had and what sign we were seeing and the weather patterns, and give each other some input, figure out where we were going to drop the one person and go around the other way, and the second person would go in, and strategizing a bit about the one day John went into Missouri, but yeah, that was kind of our nightly ritual was have a beer or two and talk about the next day and figure out where we were going to go.
2 beers at most.
Yeah,
that would be irresponsible if you drank more than 2 beers.
Oh, beer.
It's a good point. It's really hard to find beer that's not like Milwaukee's Best Light
and Busch
or Busch Light.
Do you not drink Busch?
Wash your mouth.
We drink anything, but
Oh.
if you want anything that's fancier, it just doesn't exist in Iowa.
You don't go
I
on
think
a
we found
7-day hunt.
Fireball for one night too.
You don't go on a 7-day hunt and try to be fancy, because if you drink fancy beer for 7 days straight, you're not gonna be hunting a whole lot. You need to be able to just crush Busch Lights or Bud Lights or whatever your poison is.
That's right. There's no hay burners in Iowa. I'll
No,
tell you that much.
Jesus Christ, no. Oh my God. Like I don't know how we function in Pennsylvania, because we are knocking them back. And like I'll drink 2 drinks tonight, and I won't be able to get up in the morning. And I haven't worked in a month. Like I don't know. It's hilarious. I can't drink anymore. But that's beyond the point. Danny's fine. Danny's already drank. He drank 16 6-packs or 30 packs in 4 weeks. It's helping his hair grow.
Just gotta let it run through your veins, Billy. Don't fight it.
Yeah.
Just let it run.
The main vein.
So you're comfortable getting up pretty high and hunting high enough with your sticks. I know, like, we always hunted pretty high around the farm and stuff, 20-ish feet. You guys are pretty comfortable with your setups.
Yeah, I think with my sticks and the mod that I made to it, with 3 sticks, I can get up to a platform base of about 18 feet, and that was stretching it. But yeah, we're hunting, I would say, anywhere between 15 to 18. I mean, if you want to throw another stick in there, you can get a little bit higher. Mike's hunting. You got 4 sticks in your system, I think, right, Mike? Yeah, I'm hunting 3 sticks, but I don't see any need to really get up higher than that unless you have to find an area that you can find lanes out of.
Did you mod them with aiders or? What
I did is I modded it with the loop at the bottom of the first one, so it almost gave you another. You could set that first stick at pretty much 4 feet at the bottom of it, and with the 2 loops coming off the bottom, it just gave you that extra step without having to haul in another stick.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, I have the. I'm sorry.
No, you go.
Yeah, I have the quiver on the Lone Wolf with the 4 sticks, and the tree that John and I both shot the buck out of. You couldn't go any higher than 18 feet. There was a limb that kind of would have your shoulder. So.
And that was literally the only tree in sight that you could hang a stand in that spot, literally.
Yeah. I think the direction there was, Mike, just keep walking the fence line until you see the only tree that you can go up in. So.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's very funny because I listen to a lot of podcasts and I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, and it's just all the rave right now about mobile hunting, whether you're using a Lone Wolf or an XOP or you're using a tree saddle. It's such a fad right now, but it's just so effective. Like, I think everybody that I listen to, and myself personally, and you guys, like everybody that you listen to talk about it, it's a game changer. Like our father's generation that got us all going, or what that generation that got us all out in the woods, they were building permanent tree stands out of 2x4s, and that's where you hunt, is this tree right here. Or you go over, like I go to my in-laws and over to the farm, and it's like they've got portable tree stands that they welded metal platforms with tubes and put some grate on it, some like stainless steel grate or whatever it is, or steel grate. And then those stands have literally grown into the tree. Like, these are the spots. But the ability to take these lightweight stands, whether it's a stand or if it's a saddle, and just like adjust literally within minutes if you need to, like, it's a game changer. And it's funny because it's just such a fad. It's like everybody's talking about it, but it works. Like, I think if you're not doing it, I think you're holding yourself back from being successful.
Well, every buck that we killed was out of a tree stand that we set up that day. And it was the hanging hunts. It wasn't any of the other tree stands that we brought in with our sticks. I mean, Missouri, I think I tracked it. It was like a 1.2 miles. I walked in, and you're not going to do that with any other stand.
No.
It's too heavy. It's too bulky. It's not as ergodynamic. You just can't get in there, man. That's 3 bucks that we killed in one trip, all on hanging hunt systems. So I think that speaks volumes.
Danny, did you have any more questions on your list?
No, I think I'm pretty good. I think to the point about the hanging hunts is cool because you can do it for a reasonable price. Like, yeah, up front your cost is a couple $100, but then you don't have to ever hang multiple tree stands around a property,
right,
or go into that area of a property to check a stand or put a stand up or anything. You say, I'm going here this day, and I'm not going to make any footprint on the land other than walking up and walking out. And I think there's a lot to say about that. And I really like Mike's point earlier. Like, we went to Colorado a couple years ago and we bought some pretty expensive packs, and it's like, shit, like that was a lot of money. But to Mike's point, you can strap just about anything to those packs, and it works great.
Yeah.
And like, it's amazing how many uses you find for those packs, and they work for life. And I was just looking up the pack that John had there, that XOP, and that thing looks sweet too. Like, just even any sort of frame pack with a belt on it where you can put a decent amount of weight on it, strap a couple hindquarters to it, strap a tree stand to it. Like, that is huge to just improve your ability to go farther and hunt better. You know,
and like you said, Dan, going to a place that you haven't been finding success in your go-to spots. It's like, you know what? I want to go hunt this area today. I haven't been there in a while. And it's somewhere that has been untouched for who knows how long, but going into something fresh, especially, you know, if you have somewhat of a history of having success there, and maybe it went dead for a while, but it could come back. It's happened to me before with my climbers, but there's nothing like going into a spot that you haven't beaten a trail into in years. Because I tell you what, deer pattern you like you pattern them. They know where you're walking in and walking out of, and they'll pick up on that, and it'll kill a spot if you overhunt it. So yeah, having the opportunity to just go in, and especially with these, opposed to like a climber, you can put them anywhere. I mean, you can even put them higher because you can use tree limbs, where with a climber you can't use a tree that has limbs in it.
It's about having fun too. It's I don't know about you guys, but I learned through my younger ages, I don't have as much fun with it just going up and sitting in the same tree stand for 12 hours a day over and over and over. And yeah, that's a good way to kill deer, but it's more fun to be mobile, I think, and just be in different spots, trying new things. And I think that improves your chances. So.
Yeah, the one day in Iowa, I hunted 4 different trees. So
that's awesome. Yeah, when you're out there for 12 or 14 hours, like that's nothing. Like, that's fun. You're like, oh, I'm gonna move over there, you know.
And that's it. I mean, John spoke about the one spot where he could see the creek, and then on the other side of the creek he had a nice view, and that's where he saw some of the big deer. I hunted a bit east of that, and I saw the same thing, and I kept seeing movement across the stream. And you know, midday I was like, you know what, I'm going over there. Across the stream popped up, and I was able to get in a tree exactly like John explained. There's limbs. I would have never been able to get up to it with one of the old school climbers. So it did pay dividends in us being able to get into those trees that are harder to get in. I mean, it feels like you're a little bit more free when you're with a stand with sticks. We hunt a lot in Ithaca. I have some land out there. Connecticut Hill Wildlife Refuge. There's 11,000 acres there. John and I, 10 years ago, we take our summit climbers up there, and they're big, they're clunky, and we get up into the trees up there. But it just feels like there's an additional freedom when we have these hang, whatever, with the sticks stands now.
Hangers and bangers.
Hangers and bangers.
Yeah.
I think that's the name of John's next grinder party next week.
Yeah, I'm going. Are you going?
I won't be there.
Don't shave.
How do we pull this off with social distancing, Slick?
Dude, if you're grinding, you don't care about social distancing.
If we're grinding, we ain't minding.
Hey John, that Dr. Balsey guy, he said if you put a full leaf bag over your upper half, you're good to go at a grinder party. He just said that today on Trump's speech.
Just one leaf?
No, like
one leaf bag?
No, the heavy mill lawn bags. You put it all over your
Just so you're
good to go.
I was just gonna. Oh, I'm
Don't go there, Slick.
not gonna go there. So I want to. Today we posted Russ from Hunting Western New York. He's got a new brand that him and his boys started called Whitetail Company,
Whitetail?
doing
Yeah.
a bunch of clothes and stuff like that. But he posted a post last night, with a picture of him with his first buck, and so I made a post today with Danny and myself and Jimmy with our first bucks, and it made me think, that's a pretty cool thing to ask people about, what your first buck was and, what the story was behind it. And maybe it's not a good story, but, for both of you guys, I'm curious, how old were you roughly, if you remember? Was it with a bow or a gun? Is there a good story behind
Mike
it?
can't wait to tell this story. I'm gonna let him take front stage right now.
Let me take you back to the year 1990.
1990? Holy shit, you're old. You look good though, man. I'll
Yeah,
tell you.
but he could kill deer when he was 12 in PA.
PA's 12, man. It's a free state.
It's a
You
free
know,
state. I might be moving there.
yeah,
I could work.
I might be moving back. Yeah. Well, the whole thing about Pennsylvania is that you can hunt at 12. This year, my oldest, Michael, he turned 12. We visited some family down in Maryland. My sister lives down there, and on the way back, I flew my wife and my other two kids home, and me and my oldest went for his first hunt with a rifle. Bought him a 270 in Pennsylvania. So when I was the same exact age, my father took me up to Susquehanna County, and we would do the whole get up at 4 a.m, hike for an hour into the woods, try to avoid everybody, get in deep. I had a 35 Marlin lever action, and my dad shot. He had a Remington 760 pump 30-06, which is pretty badass. I have it now. That first deer came out. It was just a 3-pointer. It had a 2 on a side, and the other antler was broken off. And what happened was my father's standing, and he's ready to shoot. I mean, he was a guy that if there was an antler, you're shooting that deer, right? So he waited, and I remember him looking at me, and I just wanted the perfect shot. I wanted to hit exactly where, the vitals were. I wanted to make it a clean kill. So I probably took, an extra 15 seconds. My dad started shooting, he's like, screw this, boom, boom. And he had a pump, his scope was set on the highest level. So he wasn't hitting this deer in a good spot. And I remember looking at my dad and said, screw this, I'm getting in this game. So I ended up shooting the deer, fell right over. I floored the thing. And it was the funniest thing. He was surprised, proud, all that stuff. I just know that he was scared that I wasn't going to be able to shoot. Ended up shooting a deer the next year at 13. So got off to a really good start, and then had a couple droughts along the way. So not all of us can be Johnny Whacker Peterson, where you kill like 10 deer a year. So that was my first.
That's awesome. Let me ask you. You say you had a drought. Any reason for that drought? Were you hunting a whole lot or no?
Yeah, John alluded to it earlier. I tend to work a ton, so I neglect hunting many times. I'm pretty much addicted to my job nowadays. Some of the earlier droughts were like I went through a college drought where I just hunting didn't make any sense for me. I was more focused on my grades. You go through ebbs and tides of your life. When I was getting married, I kind of slowed things down. When I moved to Buffalo, I slowed things down, and then I found that there was a couple years there where I ramped things up. Just everything kind of aligned. Last year we were able to do the Iowa thing, so I hunted more. But yeah, there was some droughts where I just didn't put the focus on it. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So life kind of gets in the way a lot. You just deal with, adapt, and do what you can do. So.
Well, I'll say this in Mike's defense as well. It's not a matter of having the opportunities, but a matter of taking advantage of them. Mike tends to make sure that he has everything perfectly laid out before he's going to take a shot. Like he'll give me scenarios when we get back to the truck after we're either, hunting back in Wyoming County, and he'll tell me about this. I'm like, why didn't you shoot? He's like, it wasn't perfect. And then he's starting to contemplate, like, should I have pulled the trigger? Should I have done this? Like, So I will say that, like, I do get the impression with Mike's approach that he's not gonna just let one fly to let it fly. He's gonna make sure that everything is in line so he can make that good shot.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. And what I was kind of digging at there, Mike, was like I was the same way. I mean, I shot a few deer when I was young, when you were first able to hunt, and then I was just like I was so obsessed with trying to shoot a big buck and having that perfect opportunity that I went several years. I'm trying to think. It's funny because I went, this whole challenge of like what your first buck was. I couldn't even remember, and it hasn't even been that long, but it was like I went years, a couple, maybe 2, 3, 4 years without shooting a deer because I was waiting and waiting and waiting for that perfect opportunity at a quote unquote big buck, and it just like wasn't happening. And when I started my relationship with my now wife and get in hunting with Brian and Dallas and Bob out here at the farm, like it just changed my mentality where Brian's like, you need to shoot, Slick, like you need to learn how to kill deer. And then once I started killing deer, and it was primarily does, once I started killing deer, all of a sudden it's like things start clicking. So it's kind of cool to hear that from you too, Mike, because I feel like in a way I think that's probably similar for you, and especially what John just said, like you're wanting the perfect situation, and that doesn't always present itself.
Yeah, it's funny. I get the same stuff from John. Listen, Mike, you haven't shot a deer in a year or two. It's the last day of muzzleloader. You shoot whatever you see, right? And the one year, I ended up shooting a 4.5 pointer. I think John thinks that's pretty funny. It was a it wasn't quite a 5 pointer, but it was a 4.5 pointer. I just remember sitting there. The deer came out. I heard John's voice in my right ear saying, "Just shoot it, please, just shoot it." So I did. So it's kind of an ongoing joke now. Every deer that you shoot that's not a big deer, the half pointer, you get a 6.5 pointer.
That's good.
Dallas will appreciate that.
Yeah, Dallas. I think Dallas is gonna be my my uncle today. I call him something different every podcast, so he's my uncle, and he stiffed us tonight, so I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, I thought he was joining.
It's bullshit. He said he's like got a job or something. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, what makes him so essential?
I don't know. That's a good question. He works for a massive corporation, and he has to do his mechanical works to keep things moving. And Danny also happens to work for the same corporation, and he's working in his appears to be laundry room, closet.
Sure.
I think we need to do one of those like crib sections that they've been having for these professional hunters over at Danny's house right now, because I am really curious about that room.
Yeah.
That thing looks like one of those rooms from like Storage Wars where they roll up the door and everyone bids on it.
So I have a nice office / hunting room, and me and Lauren are both working from home right now, and she works from home before this happened anyways, so she has the office on a consistent basis. So this is my makeshift desk side room.
So for a month now, you haven't fought that at all? I mean, like,
no.
I think if you look at the property deed, it's Dan Zahler's house. What happened?
Hey, John. Why'd you call that a Zoolander shirt that he's wearing?
Hey, I'm more curious why he's not sitting in that braided Bills chair behind him. I don't know why we just get to look at that, man. I'd be taking advantage of that thing. Danny, if you're not going to use it, send it this way.
No, I got 3 of these, and if anybody touches them, I'm coming after you.
That's awesome.
Oh man,
I think that's a good idea. I like the idea of the Pertnear cribs, Pertnear Pro Staff Crib Edition. I like that.
Hey, we didn't hear John's
first. Johnny, what's your first buck, Johnny?
All right, my first buck. So we're gonna go way back, not as far back as Mike, but 1998. It was my second legal year of shotgun season, and so I clumsily made my way out of the cabin that night after staying up too late with one of the older Polish gentlemen drinking what he would call short ones. And had a couple short ones. And yeah, just don't stay up with the seniors, guys. If you're just getting into this, Michael Falls, don't follow our lead. So I make my way out into a place that, well, at least going to an area I thought that I was at last year, a year prior, and kind of stumbling out there and making a couple 100 yards away from the cabin. I'm like, this looks good. I think I fell asleep for a little while. Wake up, deer go by. Like, oh, cool. Fall asleep. Wake up, deer go by. Like 2 little bucks go by. Didn't shoot. At this point, I only had killed, I think that my opening day, my only deer I killed was like a button buck the year before on opening day. So, and this was opening day. So I wake up and I see this deer coming through, and I could see that it was shot in the ass. So I'm like, I'm just gonna put it down. You know, I got to shoot this one. I thought it was a doe. Well, I shoot it and I put it right down. I hit it high shoulder and it just folded. I walk up. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. It's a 7-pointer. I'm like, this is cool. And I'm like, I look around. I'm like, where the hell am I? So I had no idea how to like get back to camp. And I don't even think I gutted the deer, but I remember walking back and forth far enough so I never got out of sight of the deer, but I could see someone in orange up there. I'm like, I don't know who that is. So I walk back the other way. I see no one. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I finally like, fuck it. I'm going to go approach this guy in orange. What's my dad? I'm like, oh my God, thank God it's you. So, I have no idea. I'm like, it gets better. So I'm like, hey, I got a buck. I'm finally excited. You know, after I killed my first buck, I'm like, hey, I got a buck. He goes, all right, he gets down. And so my dad would always take a muzzle loader out, right? He had the CVA muzzle loader. They would take out open a day. He had his Ruger Blackhawk 44 on his side, right? 44 Magnum. So we start walking out to my deer and a coyote starts coming in, and freaking Clint Eastwood takes his sidearm out and starts shooting at this thing. I go, whoa, Clint. I go, holster it, will you? The deer's right there. Don't put any more holes in it. So we start firing at this coyote, and then we finally walk up and, you know, congratulations, first buck, and helps me drag it back to camp. But yeah, that was an interesting first buck.
That's crazy.
I think everybody had a Super Red Hog 44 mag. My father had the same thing. Must have been the cool thing. Dirty Harry, right?
Where was
that era definitely like holstering those guns.
Where was what's your family background, John? Like, you said you were at hunting camp. Where is that for you, or where was it?
This was, well, I've had multiple hunting camps I've gone to, but this one happened to be one of my dad's friends down in Stockton in Chautauqua County.
Yep. I've had
and they were right on the edge of state land. They had like 120 or 30 acres, and it bordered like 1,500 acres of state land down there.
Nice.
That was a nice camp.
I had an opening day. I don't remember how old I was, but I had an opening day where I couldn't find my tree stand in the morning either. So you're not alone. I got really hammered the night before, drinking 4 Locos. I think it was probably.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was probably. I think it was 06.
Me and Mike got a story about 4 Locos.
It was 06 or 07, and holy hell, I was fired, and that was before they made 4 Locos not dangerous.
Before they were not illegal.
Yeah. Holy shit, and it was probably the darkest morning I've ever. And maybe it was because my eyes were closed. I don't know, but I got in the woods that morning, and we rode the 4-wheelers to the top of the mountain, and like Danny knows how steep this road is going up with a 4-wheeler, and we got up to the top of the hill. My Uncle Mike dropped me off, and he kept going, and I'm like trying to find. I ended up just standing in the woods until the sun came up enough for me to see where I was going, so I could find my tree stand because it was that bad. But I didn't see shit that day.
You don't say.
No. There's also a correlation where I didn't shoot a whole lot of deer back then. I don't know what was going on. But I was a mess. Still am at times, but oh god, that just kills.
It's so funny. You take for granted sometimes, like we're in Pennsylvania and you got a GPS, a phone, and a compass. It's like I am never worried about getting back anywhere. 10 years ago, maybe, go 20 years ago, holy shit. Like to go do that, I don't know if I could. Like that is crazy to just drop in somewhere and hike miles back and just be like, I'll head southwest to get out of here and get right to the truck, no problem.
That's called being a real man, Danny.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is when I lived in Philadelphia, we would drive to Potter. So I hunted Potter my whole like early teens and into my when we bought my cabin, John.
Yeah.
The year I bought my cabin in 2006 was the last year we hunted Potter County with my father. You know, so it's very interesting. I haven't done it with you guys. I keep meaning to do it. I hear this trip is awesome. All you guys rave about it. But for me, it'd be kind of like going back home, you know, to do that Potter County trip. You know, I was in Sweden Valley, shot a bunch of 7-pointers out of there.
Sweden Valley, and got some
Yeah,
yin-yangs, do you?
That's spot. Where's the picture at? I got a picture somewhere here of me at Sweden Valley. But yeah, I got to get on that Potter trip with you guys. Just think it's so interesting that you go exactly there, and that's where I spent.
We got a bigger house this year. It'll lower the bills for the rest of us if you come with us.
I got to make it.
There it is. It's Sweden in.
Say something. I can't. If you don't talk, I can't see it.
There it goes. Sweden Valley in right there. That's probably.
Oh, Gore-Tex keeps you dry. What the
yeah.
hell? That's a fantastic picture. You got to send that to me. That's a great picture, man.
That's at the Sweden Valley Inn.
What camel pack was that? I got to get me some of that.
I think it's back here. Right here.
Oh, that was Blaze Orange. It's a black and white picture.
Picture's black and white. It looks like some predator shit or something.
I think him and Peter Michael Hanos shop at the same place.
Yeah.
For their PA gear.
Yeah.
Listen,
do you have anything that's wool and weighs a lot? Yeah, that's what I want to wear to hike for 14 miles today.
Listen, I was a general in the Orange Army back in the day.
Just as long as you know to bring enough food. That's all I care about.
What's your Four Loko story, Johnny? I can't let this pass.
It has nothing to do with deer hunting whatsoever. I've never actually experienced Four Loko myself, but do you remember when they outlawed it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I was very upset.
Okay,
about that.
so when they outlawed it, me and Mike happened to be, I don't know where we were going, probably a local establishment, and we were at a gas station getting gas, and this guy comes out with cases of Four Loko, like twice he comes out, and he grabs it, he goes, he said, this stuff's being outlawed. They're putting it out on the shelves anymore. He goes, man, me and my girl drink this, she'll lick your butthole, man. I tell so we're like, you gotta be kidding me. Mike was there, he can tell you.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the title of this podcast.
Listen, John filled up his pickup truck with Four Loko.
I was going to, but he bought them all.
Yeah, next thing you know, John's got freaking a harem of kids and no life. Holy shit, that's funny. Oh my god.
That stuff is no joke.
Take you back to some deer hunting stories there, Slick.
Yeah. Oof, I never went to butthole deer hunting.
What did deer camp consist of with Four Loko is what I want to know.
Well, it was pretty much Jimmy and I that were drinking Four Lokos, and this was it was 2006-7-ish, I'm thinking, because I was in college, so that's when the mayhem would have started. And there's a famous night, I think it was the night before Thanksgiving. It might have actually, no, it was that night before opening day when I got lost in the woods. So that night I drank, and I would love to hear someone else's variation of this because I wasn't physically there. I was physically there, but I wasn't mentally there. I was Four Lokoing. But my dad's buddy Joel, so a little background, my dad's buddy Joel fell off a ladder and broke his leg terrible. So my dad, and this was like during deer season, so my dad was like, you know what, we all need to be a lot safer. Let's buy some hunter, some safety vests, because none of us were wearing harnesses at the time. So Dad bought vests for my brother, myself, and himself. And so we're at camp the night before camp, or the night before opening day. Everybody's lubed up. You're having a good time, drinking, eating well. And I'm drinking Four Locos, so I'm on another level. So Dad's like, we got to test these harnesses out and see how they work before we hit the woods tomorrow. And I'm like fired up. You know, I've had all this caffeine from the Four Loko and the liquor or whatever. So we go out to the meat pole where we hang the deer. We go out to the meat pole, and they throw the rope over the meat pole, and I put the harness on, and they hook the rope, the other end of the rope, up to the four-wheeler, and they hoist me up in the air on the meat pole. And once I get up in the air, I mean, it's not comfortable to be hanging from a safety vest. It's not. Like, it's there to save your life, not to, like, elevate yourself. And I am just screaming, like, this is not a good idea. This hurts really. I mean, it's just jamming up your man region. And of course, so I have my headlamp on, and it's on the green setting. And somebody, I think it was, I don't know who it was, but somebody grabbed my legs and started spinning me. So I'm hanging from this pole and screaming. And my uncle at the time was doing some videotape, and he was trying to do a hunting show. So, like, there's footage of this somewhere. I got to get him to dig it up. But I'm, like, spinning in circles with my headlamp going around and around. And my mother found out, and holy shit, did she tear my father a new ass. She was not happy. She's like, you let our son do that up on the meat pole? What the hell's wrong with you? She's like, Dad's like, that's what happens at deer camp, honey. You got to let that stuff go, you know. So that's...
Wait a minute. Tell me again, who's hosting the next grinder party?
I am. It's the second Thursday of every month. So that would be 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. And I should have a new...
You know what? I think the meat pole might be a good theme for that one there, Slick.
The meat pole, yes. Some people call it a buck pole. We call it a meat pole because we hang any kind of meat from it. Ah, shit. It's good stuff. I got to get my dad's side of that story sometime. There's a lot of stories to be told. I'm just sitting here thinking about all these wild, crazy stories that I've heard from my dad from when he was younger. Bear hunt, family bear hunt. There's some good stuff from that. Danny's witnessed some shenanigans on that hunt. It's good stuff. Trips are the best. Hunting trips are the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you're just the prep work, and it's not even work. It's just the enjoyment of like doing your Onyx scouting and being like, dude, did you see this at this spot on Onyx today? Or like, you have to check out this spot, or like, I don't know, just the back and forth of planning for a trip and like the unknown of where you're going. I think that's the thing. It's the unknown of going somewhere new that is just, it makes a trip like that so cool.
Did you just try to make this a serious conversation after I just told my story? Is that what you just did?
What?
Did you just try to make this serious after I just told that horrible story?
No, I don't know.
Brought us back.
He did bring
Somebody
us back.
segued. I thought I had a good segue.
No, it was good. No, I'm not saying it wasn't a good one. I just said
you guys want to hear it too.
You have a Four Local story?
Oh, it's not really good.
You got one. I want to hear it. Were you wearing an afro? That's the first thing I want to start with.
No, it's probably back in my afro days.
And what happened?
Oh, you know, those things they're wild. We got, I think the only night I ever drank them, we went out down to back in my Chippewa days, downtown Buffalo. Yeah, this was not.
Danny was bottoms up that night.
Yeah,
Right.
Back in the glory days. Oh my god! I think I lost my jacket and my wallet in the same night after drinking.
And virginity.
You wake up and you don't know where you are the next morning.
You tongue punch some dirt stars.
I know why they outlawed those things. There's a reason they outlawed those things.
There was.
It's a good reason.
Who knows what the hell was inside that stuff, man? It was good times. All right, I guess bringing it around here, we're going on 2 hours. It's been a great chat. Is there anything else that you guys want to cover? We've talked Midwest hunting, we've talked mobile setups, we've talked scouting, we've talked Four Locos, we've talked first bucks. Anything else on your guys' minds? No.
I think it's.
No, I think we.
I was just gonna say, just to cap it off with Dan saying that, the planning with the trips was probably half of the trip itself was the giddiness of prepping for that, and it ended up being probably the most important piece. Like John said earlier, the trip went off without any problems, and it was all due to that 6 months of us just hammering away and making sure that we had every little piece planned out. So I guess that would be my takeaway or final thought.
Yeah, just don't if you're gonna take any hunts, especially one in a area that you're unfamiliar with. I mean, don't discount the resources that are out there that are gonna help you scout those areas and make yourself as familiar as possible remotely with those areas.
Yeah. Use the technology that's available. It's a beautiful thing to have. Danny boy, you have anything in closing?
No, I already awkwardly closed this thing out 5 minutes ago and you didn't like it. So
Oh, I liked it. No. You misunderstood. That's not the case. Oh, man, you've done great tonight, Danny. I'm glad I asked you to be on here. You've been awesome. You came prepared. You had a list. I don't know. You had a list of things. Like, I'm impressed. I
think I saw him taking notes. Did I not?
I did not have a list of things. I take notes on questions of what I want to ask because I am interested.
All right. I have a personal question, and then I have it's just a whole nother conversation. But coming from, I looked at John and Mike. I looked at you guys as just being, you guys are fathers of multiples. What the hell am I in for here? I got about 3 weeks to due date. You got any tips, tricks for me how to handle this whole thing?
So from my perspective, it's varying degrees of pain. Years, right? So when they're small, they're hard, they're needy. When they're bigger, it's bigger kids, big problems. There is a lull when they are able to take care of themselves, and that's where I'm at right now. Like my 12-year-old can watch my 7-year-old, and I'm good to go. So me and my wife can, we've started to go to places where we can go get a drink or something like
Four
that.
Locos. You can have Four Locos.
Parking lot, John explained that. Right. But anyway, no, but things do get a little bit easier as they get older. But then everything I hear is that they get harder close to get into the high school years. So, but I have found that when they were kids, it was hard to hunt. It's changed or evolved. Now I'm finding that I'm able to take more opportunities like this Iowa trip and do it. I planned it way ahead of time. My wife couldn't deny it, but I've shifted my plan now, focusing on my 12-year-old, and John's doing the same thing. John sends me 4 or 5 texts a day about me getting the hunter safety card for my son, so John can essentially turkey hunt early using my son. Try to get him
right now
birds.
Yeah, like next week.
Yep, John is a huge turkey hunter. Me, not so much. But I do appreciate the fact that he's trying to get Mikey a bird. So,
are you aware that New York State, you can take the course online right now? Are you aware?
Michael did it.
He did
Michael did it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I'd love to hear that.
So, yep. So he's got it in hand. We're ready to go. He's got a lifetime license. I bought all my kids' lifetime licenses when they were 4. So
awesome.
That's so smart.
The only thing is the tag locked up until you have the hunter safety course. So I've been kind of pounding the phones trying to have somebody reassure me that the license was sent. If we get closer to the day where, opening day for youth, I'll probably go to Walmart and try to get one printed out. But we have getting Mikey out with John. John's been trying to schedule some shooting sessions with Michael as well, leading up to that.
Yeah, I've been out scouting the last 2 weeks, calling birds in, just going to the state park where I'm not going to hunt, and I got another friend that's getting into it this year too, so trying to give him a little bit of exposure before we actually start pursuing him. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to taking Michael out.
It's awesome. Johnny, you have any guidance for me as I approach this milestone in my life?
I think Mike nailed it, man. There's levels of pain that you don't even know that you're capable of enduring. Especially the first one's easy, man. It's 2-on-1. Now
Is that right?
you're going to be one. Oh yeah, the first one's cake. The first one you learn how to live without sleeping. You learn a lot of caffeine. The second one is then you have to learn balance with the first one, the second one, and mom.
Yeah.
And that's I think the mental or psychological aspect comes into it. And you can go with that in whichever direction you see fit. It could be am I gonna be somebody that's gonna be proactive and be involved, or am I gonna sit back and watch and observe? You just got to figure it out for yourself, Slick.
Yeah.
Let your true colors come through, man. What kind of personality do you have? But
Oh,
like I
boy.
said, with every single kid, it doesn't matter. Well, I got 3 boys. Mike can speak to it a little bit because he's got a girl, but there's levels of pain that you never thought that you'd be able to endure, whether it's physical or mental. It's all there, man. Just
I will tell you
prepare yourself for that.
that a couple years ago, John and I, we reserved Sundays to hunt, and we kind of got that on our wives' mind. You know what? Noontime on Sunday, we're hunting no matter what. We kind of reserved that, and then we kind of work some other hunting days in. So you may have some heavy negotiating ahead of you as you get more kids.
Yeah.
That's where we found ourselves.
I'm super fortunate to have hunting grounds within 5 minutes of my house, which is just an incredible benefit that I have. So, and I have in-laws that are, so yeah, it's going to be tough, but it's, I'm excited about it. It's pretty, that little girl's kicking in there right now. So it's exciting. We're close. But so in wrapping this thing up, John and Mike and Danny, I appreciate you guys jumping on. I think the biggest thing I would say take away from this entire conversation is that, don't be scared to take those trips out of state, because first time in, you can have success, and you just got to get out there and do it. So whether it's going to the Midwest to hunt whitetails, or if it's going out west to hunt mule deer or elk or anything, just take that adventure, because it's nothing you can replicate here at home. I mean, you can, I guess, maybe going to the Adirondacks for an extended period of time, or getting out, away from home, but planning an out-of-state trip, there's nothing like it. So if you haven't done it yet, I strongly encourage that you, whether it's doing it alone or doing it with a group of guys, it's an awesome experience. So I would encourage everybody to take a look at doing that. And if you have any questions, we've got, whether it be Danny or myself or, Brian, any of the Kirsches or any of these guys, John or Mike, anybody's willing to talk somebody through the steps of getting started. So, don't hesitate to reach out to us and ask us for our opinions if you need any help. We're not experts, but we have done it and we've found success doing it. So that's where I'll leave it there. Thanks, boys. Wash your hands.
Yeah, thanks, Slick.
Wear
Hey,
masks.
stay safe, and hey, good luck with that little one coming, man.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. I'll send you a picture.
Buddy.
I'll call you.
All right.
Yeah. I'll say, hey,
Keep us
Johnny, I got
posted.
another one here. What do I do? All right. See you, boys.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
All right. See you, Slick.
You guys.
Hey, Danny.